All right, 79.1. Just quickly, it's about our 100-hour anniversary. We've put up about 100 hours of this stuff, which means there's almost as much stuff on us out there in the world being mostly ignored as there is like of Meryl Streep or Tom Hanks. So congratulations, us. And I think we each wanted to talk about Matt Whitaker. Matt Whitaker is the acting attorney general. Trump got rid of Jeff Sessions and replaced him with this guy. And there's a bunch of stuff that I've learned from the liberal media that Lance will probably disagree with, that Whitaker is skeptical of judicial review, as epitomized by Marbury versus Madison, which is a 200-year-old case where the courts, the Supreme Court in particular, can take a look at laws passed by Congress to see whether they agree with the Constitution or not. And Whitaker doesn't like that idea, that you should be able to review laws. Also, he's apparently said that he really only wants judges who are Christian, you know. No atheists, no Jews, no Muslims. And then, on a more ridiculous note, he used to work for a company that was promoting toilets for guys with big penises. Specially structured toilets, so if you have a long wiener, your wiener, if you sit down to poop, your wiener does not get in the toilet water. And that's the guy who's in charge of our judicial system right now. Lance.
All right. I would be very interested in verifying and researching whether Whitaker doesn't want anybody but Christians on the court. If you are a Christian, I can see how you would have a right to your opinion. So I wouldn't hold that against him. I mean, if you believe in your religion, I don't know why that's a problem. But Rick and I talked about this earlier in the day, and Rick said he was going to bring up this toilet thing with Matt Whitaker.
Can I say one thing?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
But occasionally I run into that penis problem in the mornings. Where I'm too lazy to stand up to pee, and I sit down, and I've got like a little bit of morning wood, and yeah, I can see where that's. I have to kind of scooch back so it doesn't make contact. But I don't think I need a special toilet. I just need to scooch back.
Okay, listen, guys. Part of this show is about spreading truth, and I have I would like to say it's a unique honor, but it turns out a lot of people have had this honor of seeing Rick's penis. And right, what you heard just then was bullshit. Rick's penis can barely. It's not gonna have it doesn't need a special toilet. Okay?
No, let me explain about my thing. When you're posing for an art class, and if you're in a crazy pose, like if you're doing action poses, if you're on your back across two stools, you're working hard and all your muscles are contracted as if you were going into battle. And when you're going into battle, you don't need your thing flopping around where it might get hurt, so your body pulls it in, and you do end up with a little bit of an egg in a nest kind of look, which is embarrassing. But that's only when you're working hard. When I'm relaxed and then, or in the mornings, then anyway, enough about my penis.
Well, all right. So here's the thing. I looked up whether Whitaker, what happened with the penis toilet or the toilet. It turns out that Whitaker's on the board of a company that does patents. And so among the patents they did was this ridiculous toilet. And also the company had a really bad record and went out of business or was convicted of fraud or accused of fraud. And I thought, well, okay, he's on the board of advisors of a company that went bust, and if there are charges against him, if it can be shown that he is actually a committer of fraud, then yeah, we have a problem. But I don't think they can say that because he was on the board of trustees of a patent company that made a lot of different patents that he's got to be he's got to be removed from office.
Can I agree with you on that?
Oh, okay.
It's not entirely fair to make him 100% responsible for the big penis toilet. But as a general rule, do not give your money to a company that promises to help you get a patent and then bring that idea to other companies that manufacturers that might be interested. Those companies will take your frickin' money. My brother got taken. He had a good idea for a product, but watch Shark Tank. Shark Tank shows how much you have to bust your ass to get your idea out there. And even if it is a good idea, there are still a zillion reasons why it may not go. And you can't pay some company to make your idea go for you. There's no substitute for hard work in that area. Just don't give your money to a patent company.
Okay, you said a variant on that last week, but it's okay if we repeat ourselves a little bit because we come up against the same subject, so you got to say the same thing sometimes. I'm going to lower this light a little bit and turn your head this way. All right, less. Okay. So what I want to talk about, though, is that when Rick brought this up to me, I thought to myself, how petty and vile that the Democrats, they have to find something shitty to say about everyone that Trump picks. So they try to link him with this company that he was on the board of in order to make fun of him, say shitty things about him. And now I'm going to go on this is my thing. I want to talk about this for a few minutes. So what happened was, I thought to myself, I really don't know the qualifications of Whitaker. It seems like a very petty thing, and it's not even of any interest to me, except that so many Democrats find it interesting. And I thought, I don't remember any concern about people in powerful positions under Obama. Now, so I thought to myself, there was one individual, John Brennan, who voted for the communist in the 80s, Gus Hall, and I don't know a single Democrat that knows that.
For president or for what?
For president. And then this individual, John Brennan, was made the director of the CIA by Obama. So I just want to repeat that. Basically a communist was made the head of the CIA. And none of the Democrats were worried about it. None of them were concerned. And then I thought to myself, Rick's got a new tactic when he debates with me. He always says he doesn't believe me and that I have to look it up. So rather than waste time, I looked it up before he came. And sure enough, on a Democrat news source, it turns out, yes, John Brennan did vote for the communists in the 80s when he was in college.
Did he endorse the guy? Because
he voted for him.
How do you know?
Because he admitted it. I knew Rick was going to ask searching questions. He wouldn't just take my word for it.
I take it as just weird for somebody to...
What happened was when he was taking the lie detector test for the CIA, they ask you if you've ever supported an organization that might be, that wants the destruction of the U.S. And so he had to admit that he kind of sort of had. And he admitted that in an interview later on. Now, so it seems to me that if a guy's on the board of a patent company that's fraudulent, that's bad, but I think it's even worse to put a guy that voted communist in his youth as head of the CIA. That's meant to protect America from communists. So, but Democrats don't even know that. I bet until right this second you didn't know that, right, Rick?
Well, you brought it up, I think, last week.
But if I hadn't brought it up in a previous week, you would never have heard of it.
No. I don't even know who Gus Hall is.
Gus Hall was the head of the Communist Party, and he used to run for president.
And he's a kind of a lunatic like a Jill Stein or...
Well, he was a communist that ran for president. So the point is, though, is that not a single Democrat I know knows this. They know all about the toilet that Whitaker supported, but they didn't know that Obama was appointing former communists to be the head of our intelligence. And wait, there's more.
All right, can I say one thing just as a
okay, but then I'm going to go back to something else.
All right. Well, don't be an asshole and vote for fringe lunatic candidates. Just fucking don't. We have a two-party system. And when you vote for crazy people who have zero chance of being elected, I know everybody wants to have to redo the two-party system so there's more room for other parties. But when you vote for a Jill Stein or a Gary Johnson or a Gus Hall or frickin' even Nader, when you do that, it's like you're pissing in the gas tank of American democracy. Show some balls. You may not be 100% satisfied with the major party candidates, but pick the one that most matches your political point of view and vote for that person, and don't waste your time on lunatics.
Yeah, but what interests me is that you completely missed what was important.
The communist part.
And the fact that your president made him the head of the CIA. Don't you think that's a little bit of concern?
I'd want to know more about the whole background of everything. Why he voted for a lunatic in the 80s.
Well, no, he voted for a communist. And I would think that was disqualifying to be head of the CIA. Don't you think that, Rick?
It's not the best thing, but I want to know more stuff.
Well, like what?
Like he votes for why? I'd want to know why he voted for the guy.
Well, but we already know why, because he believed in communism.
Really, like, I mean,
if you vote for the candidate of the Communist Party, that means you believe in communism.
Not exactly. No, I was a registered Republican.
No, Rick.
Hold on.
Rick, don't you give me some story. Isn't it enough for me to tell you that Obama appointed the head of the guy to protect us from communism was a guy that voted communist? Don't you think that's more important than a guy on the board of a patent company that did bad patents, fraudulent patents?
Well, the two things, when compared to each other, it's worse to vote for a communist than it is to, I mean, depending on his degree of involvement with this patent company, yeah.
And don't you think it's strange that there were no media outlets in your media group, CNN, Washington Post, that informed you of that? And yet they all informed you about the toilet for your dick.
Well, in the 80s, I didn't give a shit about politics at all.
No, but right now, they should have mentioned this guy, John Brennan, that accused Trump of treason.
No, because it's
was a former communist.
Why? So you want some whataboutism? Everybody has to do your whataboutism work so that to bring up something from 30 years ago to say, well, this is just as bad, or if not worse, than the patent guy.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not saying whataboutism. I'm saying in your life, as an Obama supporter for the past 8 years, wouldn't it be of interest to you that he was appointing communists to be head of the CIA? Shouldn't you have been informed about that? After all, your media informed you about the penis toilet.
Yeah, but I mean, I worked on a comedy show or a series of comedy shows.
I don't know a single Democrat, whether they worked on a comedy show or not.
I'm just saying
that knew anything about it. Not one Democrat. If I called up all of my friends that are Democrats and said this to them, none of them would know. But probably half of them would know about the penis toilet.
What I'm saying is I was trying to get laid in the 1980s. I was trying to get a girlfriend. I didn't care about politics. I may have missed it. But yeah, if they didn't inform people of this in the 80s, then Well, wait, in the 80s.
No, recently, while I was director of the CIA.
You could make that argument.
Yes, I am making that argument.
Okay. Now, it's still a guy who's not currently working in government.
But they should have told you 4 years ago when he was head of the CIA.
Yeah.
But they didn't. But they failed to, because they don't want you informed. Now, I said I was going to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to tell you the second part of my question, of my point.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, you know, when you think about that incident, there was another advisor that was almost as powerful named Huma Abedin. And she was the chief advisor and assistant to Hillary Clinton for most of Clinton's political career. Now, she was associated with the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, Rick, because you may be fuzzy on this, the Muslim Brotherhood believes in the destruction of Western civilization, including the U.S. and Israel. Now, I knew, because of your new tactic of always saying, prove it, I don't believe you, that I was going to have to look that up. So I actually took a few minutes and looked it up. And I read the first article. And the article was from a left-wing newspaper. And I typed in the question, did Huma Abedin have ties to the Muslim Brotherhood? And the left-wing magazine online said, 4 Pinocchios. That's just a lie. She was editor. She was a contributor and editor to a magazine published by this woman, and it was something like, it was called the Journal of Minority Muslim Affairs. And that's just not the Muslim Brotherhood, and it's really unfair. It's 4 Pinocchios. They're lying to you. If you think Huma Abedin had anything to do with the Muslim Brotherhood, then you're being misinformed by right-wing extremists.
Now, hold on.
No, you said I could talk.
Yeah, but I'm going to agree with you to some extent.
What, could you, no, please.
Let me just fucking agree with you for a second. Let me just agree with you.
I hate doing this because I'm trying to make a point.
I know you're making a point, but the deal is, it's like the Homeland principle, the show Homeland, which I don't watch because I'm too cheap to pay for HBO.
I don't want to hear about HBO. I'm trying to make a point, Rick.
But the deal is...
No, let me make my point, and then you have to hold your deal, whatever. Okay. So now I have to get the audience back to hearing what I was saying before you interrupted me with this diversion. 1, the left-wing newspaper said no way, she was not involved with the Muslim Brotherhood. And then they quoted Jews who said, yeah, she was associated with this journal, but it had nothing to do with Islamic extremism. Jews they interviewed, Jews at Harvard, who seem really reliable. And I thought to myself, you know what? The left-wing news outlets are always lying to Rick, because Rick is always wrong, because they're always giving him the wrong information, and they're not above lying. They will lie to Rick so that he's misinformed. So I actually looked up the journal. I found an English translation of the journal. And I read the journal. And I thought, okay, who are the contributors to this journal? By the way, I did this all in the hour before you showed up. Well, it turns out that there was a contributor, a woman that wrote about Muslim affairs in the treatment of women. So now I think to myself, well, that's not proof of anything. And Rick's going to say, well, that doesn't prove anything. So what? So I had to actually go to that book. I actually went to the book on Muslim treatment of women, and I read an English translation of it, just excerpts. And it turns out the book was partly written by Huma Abedin's mother, and it is completely in support of Sharia law. So, the Sharia law actually covered female genital circumcision, which it did not oppose. It indicated that murdering an apostate someone that leaves the Muslim religion, is permitted in the Quran. It says that marriage of child brides, that is pedophilia, was practiced by the Prophet.
This is Huma Abedin's mom writing this stuff?
Yeah, it's Huma Abedin's mom. And then Huma Abedin's mom was reviewing a book by another Muslim scholar, both of whom had contributed to the paper. And it was basically completely in support of radical Sharia, which would ultimately lead to pedophilia, stoning of adulterers, murdering of apostates, that is, people that leave the Muslim religion. Every horrible thing you can think of in Sharia, this book supported, Abedin's mother supported, and when they founded their magazine, Abedin worked for it. So it turns out the media had deliberately avoided doing the 10 minutes of research that it would have taken to prove that, yes, Abedin, Clinton's assistant, is associated with Sharia law. They are associated with the Muslim Brotherhood. And the people writing the left-wing journals saying that no, she wasn't, either didn't bother to look up the book, which I did in 5 minutes, or they wanted to lie to Rick. They wanted Democrats to think that Huma Abedin had nothing to do with Sharia law and the Muslim Brotherhood, when I found out within 10 minutes that she did. Now,
not that she herself has said.
But she worked for the magazine that supported it. Her father and her mother were powerful advocates for radical Sharia. That is causing mayhem all over the world today. And she was the main advisor, the chief of staff to Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. Now, you got me worried about a guy with a dick toilet, and you yourself, and not a single Democrat you talk to, knows that Clinton's main advisor worked on the journal for the Muslim Brotherhood and radical Sharia. And I can prove it all. I've got it all the PDFs, everything written down. I've got the actual books, the journal, everything. It's all there. Her position.
But not that she herself supports Sharia law.
Well, Rick, if you're working...
Just that she's associated with...
she was an editor. She was an editor of the magazine.
That presented different points of view.
No, presented Sharia.
No, not just Sharia.
Damn it, Rick!
No.
I try not to lose my temper.
Okay, but lose your attention. Married to a Jew. Huma Abedin.
Married to a very stupid Jew that went to prison. So
married to Anthony Weiner, the guy who could not stop himself from doing pervy shit on the internet.
That doesn't prove... Rick, if I was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood and I married a Jew, that would be an excellent cover if I was trying to influence Hillary Clinton. In other words, she had a person that believed in Sharia law, that worked for the main journal supporting Sharia law, or not the main journal, a journal that supported Sharia law. She was an editor of this journal, and she was the advisor to Hillary Clinton.
What's the name of the journal again?
It's called the Journal for Minority Muslim Affairs.
So they must have had like a dozen or more articles in every issue.
But it was founded by her mother, Mrs. Abedin, who was in favor of radical Sharia in the treatment of women. We're talking genital mutilation.
Did they ever have articles?
Female genital mutilation.
Yeah, I know.
But the exact words were, it was not prohibited by the Prophet. Although Islam does not prescribe it to women, it does not prohibit it. That was her answer to female genital mutilation. Therefore, her mom's answer. Therefore, the laws in Egypt that banned it, she felt should be overturned, because Islam does not ban female genital mutilation. And this is the woman. her daughter, who worked with her on the same journal that said this, was advising Hillary Clinton. And you didn't know that, but you know about the dick toilet.
I knew Huma Abedin. It comes from a Muslim background. I know she's married to a Jew. And I didn't know her parents had loathsome political opinions.
Or that she worked in the same journal that promoted those loathsome opinions. Why didn't she say, Mom and Dad, you guys are fucked. I'm not going to have anything to do with this. No, she worked with them.
Okay, fine. All right, go to your next thing.
Don't you think it's important that the advisor to Hillary Clinton was associated with radical Muslim Sharia, and that the head of the CIA was a former communist under Clinton and Obama? But you're worried about the dick toilet?
Oh, if I'm going to make a joke, I'm going to make a joke about the dick toilet.
No,
I'm going to make 110,000 jokes.
Okay, I'm going to make a joke about how your media is misinforming you. You walk in here.
What is my media? What is my media? What are my media?
The Washington Post should have published, and CNN, and should have published front page every night that this was what was going on, and they didn't, so that you would vote for Clinton and Obama. But when...
So you think I read the Washington Post?
You are constantly reading variations of it, Rick, and you don't know it.
I get 4 free articles from the Washington Post a month.
Well, there you go.
4 articles.
Rick, wait a minute. I don't do that. So now you do read the Washington Post.
I get 4 articles. My main...
Wait a minute. You do, though. You do.
Yeah, but
No, wait a minute. Wait, you were going to deny that you read the Washington Post. It turns out you actually do read the Washington Post.
I read other shit, too.
Okay. Well, how come they didn't tell you about these things I just told you, but they told you about the dick toilet?
Because I didn't learn about the dick toilet from the Washington Post. My main medium, my main source of information is Twitter.
Rick, if I got on the phone now, if we invited 1,000 Democrats in here, not one single one would know that Brennan voted communist or that Huma Abedin was a supporter of Sharia.
That's probably true, but
it's not about you, Rick. It's not about you. It's about how a generation of Democrats are brainwashed zombies, and this is the reason. I have uncovered something very important.
Not exactly. I follow 400
I don't give a fuck.
You see, it's not about
me. It's irrelevant.
Well, but let me say shit.
Do you know any Democrats that knew that Brennan was a communist?
I barely know who Brennan is myself. He was head of the CIA. Didn't know about him until he started showing up on TV. We used to not have to pay attention about who ran the CIA. Now, you would say, no, we should have been paying more attention because this shit was going on. But politics used to be a thing we didn't have to worry about every single day.
2 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, until the coming of Trump, politics wasn't a daily concern.
Let me ask you a question.
But hold on. I follow 400 comedians on Twitter. If I'm going to learn something, it's because people are making jokes about it. And, yeah, it may be more important about stuff, what Huma Abedin's background is. And it may be more important about Brennan's background. But if people aren't joking about it, then I may not know about it. I know it's not about me.
How can they know about it if your media doesn't tell them about
it? Did you look at any mainstream news sources that talked about Huma Abedin's background? Can you prove to me that this wasn't covered?
Let me put it to you this way, Rick. You and I both use the internet.
Yeah.
Now, I could probably find an article somewhere on the internet by a mainstream source that says something about her background. But that's not what's important, Rick. Don't interrupt me. What's important is that if it was really an issue, they would have told you. You would know about it. The fact that there was some article somewhere out there that says this, and actually the mainstream source I went to denied it. They denied it. They said this Journal of Muslim Affairs.
Would you go to PolitiFact or Snopes?
It was a mainstream. I can look it up again.
All right, but go to your next point. All right, I'll give this to you for right now, and then go to your next point.
Well,
because you said you had more stuff.
No, I'm done. I'm done. This is how you're being brainwashed. That's my point.
All right. So let's talk about how you might be being brainwashed.
Okay.
Like, I agree with you sometimes, and you basically never agree with me, and I've said that before. But, like, it seems as if, like, whatever happens in the conservative sphere, whatever conservative media tells you, and conservative media to some extent is in the business of making excuses and providing context and explaining why. Oh, wait, you don't have nothing more to say about Whitaker? Like why he might be qualified?
No, I really don't. It really is so minor to me.
He's the attorney. He's the acting attorney general.
Yeah, all right. Maybe he's on the board of advisors of the.
All right. So I've got one question or one challenge to you.
I mean,
tell me one thing.
If it turns out that he somehow made money through fraud, then he should be prosecuted.
All right. Tell me one thing, and this should be easy. Tell me one time where you were watching Sean Hannity. Because you watch him, I don't know, pretty regularly, right?
Yeah.
Tell me one time where Sean Hannity said something, and you're like, nah, I don't buy that.
Never.
So everything Sean Hannity tells you, you've never disagreed with him.
The only time I was ever embarrassed was when I quoted Judge Pirot, who's also
Judge Jeannie?
Yeah,
Judge Jeannie?
Judge Jeanine Pirot was wrong about something and she was also quoted by and I quoted her on this show, and it turned out not to be true.
Did she retract it or anything?
I don't recall.
But it was a factual error of hers.
Yeah, something like that.
But never opinion, and
No.
never. So it seems like you just buy everything. Like you're ready to buy everything as long as it comes to you from a source you agree with.
Yeah. I mean, I have no reason to doubt them, because in subsequent events, what they say always turns out to be true. And I usually come to the opinion before they do. Like I'm as well informed as some of the people on Fox. So I know what the score is.
So that just seems unlikely that any source should be agreed with 100%. And I'll tell you, and I can. Sometimes I agree with, sometimes I disagree with the sources you don't like, and sometimes I agree with. For instance, we're going to talk about the campfire that they're called, the fire that may have killed more than 1,000 people in Central California, and the one that Trump just came out to visit.
Okay.
And Trump's whole thing is that if Democrats had practiced better forest management, these fires wouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
And I'm going to agree with you to some extent that out of like 4 or 5 causes for this fire, forest management is among those causes. I think Trump's wrong in emphasizing one and never mentioning all these others, but I will agree that forest management is a big deal.
I'll tell you why this is important, though. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you're going to say that global warming has something to do with the cause of the fires, right?
Well, I didn't spend time researching it, but in the past I've read up. I think there's a thing called the bark beetle.
Yeah, I know. It moved here because of global warming. But let me just say something.
Its habitat keeps expanding because it requires certain temperature conditions. And the more the bark beetle gets in there, and the more drought affects trees, you get a lot more dead trees. The bark beetles, once a tree has bark beetles, that tree is dead.
I just wanted to make a quick point, I promise.
Okay.
And that is that the reason that Trump doesn't say much about global warming, or the reason I don't think he should, is because we can do something about management of the forests, but we can't stop global warming in time for next season's fire season. So you know, so he has. There's no reason to be talking about global warming.
Yeah,
We
but
need
when people
better forest
ask him
management.
about global warming, he still says it's bullshit.
Well, because it's of no practical value. If you're trying to stop the forest fires that are going to come next year or next month, you can't say, okay, we have to lower the Earth's temperature by 1 degree. It's ridiculous.
No, but here's what happened in a nutshell, among the other things. Trump said he talked to the president of Finland, which is Finland's main industry is forestry. And Trump said that the president of Finland said, we prevent our forest fires by raking around the trees. And then the president of Finland said, no, told him no such thing. And then I did a little bit of research on Finland, and Finland is 30 degrees cooler than Central California. And Finland gets roughly twice as much precipitation as Central California, and in the summer it gets 20 or 30 times more precipitation. So to generalize from Finland, even after the president of Finland says, no, that's not what the deal is to make a false generalization, because you're talking about two different ecosystems.
Yeah, but
now let's talk about some of the other causes.
Well, let me just respond for 1 second.
All right.
Okay, look, when you told me this before the show, I didn't even bother looking it up because, frankly, it's not that important. I mean, so Trump asked the president of Finland what they do. They have a lot of forests. He
made shit up.
He got a factoid that is, maybe he didn't understand it, he got it wrong, whatever. It's just not that interesting or important. And the fact that your media is telling you how important this is, and they're leaving out that the head of the CIA was a communist. Again, it just shows me how badly informed you are.
My medium is fucking Twitter, so I'm not going to be fully informed. I'm looking for shit I can tweet about. I'm looking for tweets I can laugh about. But there are other things to talk about with regard to the fires, like Paradise, California, the town that got wiped out. Where it's going to turn out there are now 1,400 people missing, in addition to the 70-some people who are confirmed dead. Now, out of that 1,400 who are missing, easily 1,000 of those people could turn up dead out of a town of 26,000 people that was completely wiped off the map. 7,000 structures burned. Okay. It's gone.
Thank you, Democrats.
You can say thank you, Democrats.
Democrats are responsible for all their deaths.
Because there are a bunch of causes. Now, forest management could have been better. PG&E, that the government has been working with forever, it may turn out to be liable for this deal because they couldn't control sparking wires and who knows what else with regard to the sparks from PG&E is the public electricity utility.
Yeah, and who's been running the government all these years and controlling PG&E? The Democrats. They're the one. You're telling me how badly the Democrats run California. You're right, Rick. Vote Republican.
PG&E has been under scrutiny for decades now, and if you look, I've looked at some of the history, and maybe PG&E hasn't been fixing its shit fast enough, but PG&E has been pressed for decades and has been working and spending tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to get better. But there are other reasons for this. Like, are they going to rebuild Paradise? One reason that people die in fires in California and across the whole West, the whole mountain West, is that more and more people live in the mountains now. So that's one thing. So you've got incursions of more and more human population. You need better forest management. You have habitats changing, so trees are less healthy and are more subject to being killed by parasites. So it's 3 or 4 different causes that all contribute. And forest management is also 57% of the forests are under federal, not state control.
But it's the state that controls whether people living near those forests can manage their land properly.
Yeah, and
And
if you look,
and the
have
state,
you read
and I
up
mean
on
the Democrat state of California.
Have you read the history of what is being done to make people manage their land better?
I've read some things. What I have read is that that what happens is people need to be able to clear cut for long distances around their houses. Now I know that because you live in the valley, you have to get rid of the shrubbery on your property. But out in the boondocks, out near the forests, the people that live in these homes aren't allowed to clear cut around their forests without spending thousands and thousands of dollars appeasing Democrat bureaucrats.
We should look.
And that is in Bill 425, Assembly Bill 425. I said this last week. People are not being permitted to manage their own land. And they used to be able to. And it's because the Democrats are in the pocket of environmentalists that have made it next to impossible for people to do anything with the trees around their property, because they might damage some fish or some newt or some little animal. So it is the Democrats being basically in the pocket of radical environmentalists that caused all these people to die.
I just mentioned 3 or 4 causes.
But the other things can't be controlled. Don't you understand?
But
the one thing that you could do is you could clear the brush and the trees away from your property, and you could bring logging back to diminish the size of the forests. And the Democrats have stopped both of those things. They want Trump to say, oh yeah, well, we got to lower the temperature on the planet.
Well, that's not what anybody wants.
No, that's it. You want to blame Trump because Trump won't say global warming, and I'm telling you that these people are dying because practical things that could be done, they are prevented from being done by Democrat environmentalists. And I can prove it because there's a bill in the House right now about that.
The last time there was a bill that got vetoed by Jerry Brown said this bill actually gets in the way of improving conditions to prevent fires because we're already working on this and we've already developed solutions, have solutions that will reduce the risk of fire, but this bill makes it harder to implement.
Well, you know what? I got proof that Brown was wrong because 1,000 people may have died recently. So I guess the Democrats don't know what the fuck they're doing about fire management in this state. And you're proving my point. And if you continue arguing with me like a zombie, you will get more people killed. Your party is responsible for these people's deaths.
No.
Okay.
Look at the history.
The history. This is not global warming, Rick. This is the Democrat environmentalists preventing forest management.
With a single reason.
It's the only thing we can do something about. No, we can't stop the beetle. We can't turn.
You can't stop people from moving into the forest?
Maybe we should.
Yeah.
But it's the Democrats that should do that then. Why? They're in charge they've got a supermajority in the legislature, and he's the governor of the state. We haven't had a Republican in power for years. Why don't they stop it? Because they're fucked. Because you support a party that is inept and is now getting people killed. AB 425, which is supposed to deal with this, has not been passed because the Democrat legislature is dithering because they're in the pockets of the radical environmentalists.
When we break, show me AB 425. We'll see the fucking bill. Show me the bill.
Okay, fine. Let's break. I cherry-picked. There's only one bill.
Let's fucking read 425.
Bill, stop. Are you rolling?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Why is it that the one bill in the legislature that does something about it is I'm cherry picking.
Well, let's see.
Well, no, wait. I cherry pick
the context. I want to see the
context.
Just show me the bill.
Let's look it up. You're so stubborn. This is just sheer stubbornness.